So what you're about to watch is a very fun and honest conversation I had with the filmmaker Myles Wheeler. And one thing that Myles does is that he makes autobiographical films and he posts them to YouTube. And he's actually built quite a sizable audience on YouTube. So a lot of people are quite impressed with his filmmaking skills. And it's obviously really difficult to build any kind of audience on this platform. So it's really impressive that he's done that. And I was actually really honoured to have the opportunity to work with Myles on one of his short films after filming this, which was such a great opportunity, and I learned so much. Like, it was so interesting after talking to him to have the experience to be on one of his sets and to observe from script to like seeing him film it and seeing it come to life, his vision on the page. And it was such a privilege to get to work with him, so I'm really genuinely grateful for the opportunity, and I took so much away from it, and I took so much away from this chat as well, so I hope you enjoy. So today I'm excited to welcome Myles, and you're a very multi-skilled man, and I want to ask you about all your films. But firstly, I know that you did some work on TV. I was watching it yesterday actually. You were described as
Oh,
the
really? Oh, cool.
official CBBC vlogger, for people who don't know. So I wanted to ask how you got involved in TV and how that was different to your normal content.
Yeah. So that was that sort of wrapped up a few years ago. But yeah, it was a very fun. And your guinea pig was on it. I think you missed out in your introduction.
That's how I
You definitely should have said. And my guinea pig was also the star of this TV show.
That's how I tried to convince Myles to do an interview. I was just
As
like,
soon
my
as I
guinea
heard that, I
pigs.
was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, I remember that guinea pig. I was like, "This guinea pig's got star power." Yeah, I'll do this interview. Yeah. It was good fun. Yeah, so it was a sort of that time of TV where TV was sort of finding out a little bit about like, oh, this YouTube and vlogging thing's popular. So it was sort of like it was on TV, but it was yeah, they sort of got people to vlog basically. It was sort of like a review show, but with sort of some behind the scenes things going behind the scenes of like different TV shows, and those are my favorite sort of bits, just because it was kind of a bit different to what I was used to. But yeah, how did that get started? I was in my gap year,
Yeah.
not doing many things. Some people go traveling. I was mainly sort of laying down and worrying. And watching too much TV. So then I was looking at jobs and I just saw a job thing for a it was yeah, you had to send in like a self tape for this TV thing, which I did, and then they replied and said, "Oh, that TV job you just applied for is like 5 years out of date, but the bit we kept on our website." I was like, "Oh, don't remove that from the website." But they said, "But we kind of liked your video that you sent in, even though the job that you originally applied for is 5 years out of date. Would you be up for like doing another one, but for this other thing, which would eventually become the CBBC Whoops, I Missed the Bus show?" So kind of started just like yeah, just like applying for a normal job. Turns out that job doesn't actually exist, but they kind of like the vibe of the video I sent in, and then it just so happened that there was this other opportunity that was kind of similar, and then sort of went through a few audition sort of things, and then yeah, and then we started making it, which was cool.
That's wild. So it wasn't even a job that was advertised. I just saw something from.
Yeah, so they were sort of very early stages of behind the scenes, like, okay, how do we like how are we going to find these vlogger people? And then it just so happened that just a weird fun coincidence that the same company who'd put that old job were also looking for this new one, but actually sort of hadn't officially started looking. And then they saw that I did YouTube, and they're like, oh, maybe this is a sign. Let's go for this guy,
That's
which was
really
nice.
good then. And I know that you like studied to do with film at uni. So I wanted to ask, well, it's a bit of a big question, but what did you learn from uni?
Oh yeah, that is big. That's big for Thursday. What did I learn? I think I learned. Well, I think it's interesting. The things I think I learned are things maybe that I didn't sort of retroactively lessons. Like maybe I don't think maybe it was such a time where I had a lot of freedom creatively that, and I did make stuff, put like personal projects through university. But I think, and I feel like a lot of people say this after university, they wish they'd maybe just made a few more things or used that sort of time a bit better. But I think it's a good lesson to have that now, because now when I sort of, if I finish work a little earlier in the day or I've got a free day off, I'm like, okay, this is a free time. I'm a bit more aware of that free time because there was so much of it at uni that maybe I didn't realize was there. And also specifically documentary stuff. We had a whole course. One of our terms was all about autobiographical documentary. Like I like filming my life with my camera and stuff. And it wasn't until doing this term in university where we were watching these documentaries from people basically who were doing vlogs in like the 60s and 70s. I was like, oh wow, this it was a real nice validation of like, oh, this thing that I've been trying to do. And like, obviously vlogging has been a thing for a while, but specifically the type of, filming your life over a long period of time that I like to do, and then sort of trying to piece it together to understand sort of a part of your life. It was really interesting finding and studying documentarians in a more official capacity. It felt quite validating that like, oh, this isn't just a YouTube thing. This is an art form that's been around for a long time, and there is a way for me to keep doing this. So that was really cool. I like that. That was a good lesson.
Yeah, I've seen that you've spoken about that actually because I did my research. I saw that you really learn about autobiographical filmmaking as an art form. So I wanted to ask what kind of drew you towards that style, and have you seen anything specifically within that style that's inspired you and your filmmaking?
Yeah, it was similar to again a lot of just accidental falling into it. I didn't quite realize I was doing like making autobiographical films until university. So how I found it was sort of just being inspired by YouTube and vloggers, and then seeing that there's this whole other way to explore the art form through more official sort of yeah, like feature length documentaries and stuff. Like there's a documentarian called Ross McElwee who was like who's so good, very like very dry, very funny. Uses a lot of like just films a lot of B-roll and then recontextualizes it later. So footage of just like a dog running in the park that might be pointless, but then when he's going through a breakup, he then reuses that footage to say that he's like being dogged by doubts. So it's like a nice, he like visually like he recontextualizes a lot of really nice stuff. So, and he's got a really great film called Sherman's March, which we watched, and it starts off as he got funding to make a history documentary from like a history channel in the 80s about this historical figure called Sherman, who did, as the title would suggest, who did this march around America. I'm not too clued up on the history side of it, but so it starts as this history documentary, but then his long-term girlfriend breaks up with him, and then suddenly he still takes the money to do this historical sort of tour around America to capture that history, but instead his personal life sort of leaks into that history, and it's about basically him going sort of to all these cities around America and meeting new people and like trying to sort of feel that heartbreak. He meets new sort of partners, and like his camera at the time is quite excited to see someone with a camera because it's like shot in the 80s. Just basically about him sort of having these different relationships around America, trying to sort of get over this heartbreak whilst also still trying to be like, oh shit, no, this is meant to be a historical documentary. So it's a real fun contrast of him like it starts from this place of he's meant to be doing something professional, he's got this funding, and then his personal life sort of almost sabotages that, but at the same time allows it to sort of open up to be this film about like new chances and how the camera allows you to meet new people and maybe fall in love again and heal old wounds. And also it's just very funny. So that, yeah, that's one of my favorite. It's and seeing that I was like films over like he documents the footage over like 2-3 years and then pieces it together. I'm like, damn, how's he done this? So that was like a big inspo for sure, yeah.
That sounds like such an interesting film. And I've heard you've spoken about like making something in the edit. And I don't know how much do you like film stuff with the idea of knowing what it's going to look like, and how much are you making it in the edit, and what's making it in the edit even look like for you?
Yeah, I think a lot of documentary stuff I feel like is you don't really know what you're going to get. So unlike a film where you can plan shots and like work it out, a lot of it is kind of just down to let's see what we get. Obviously, you can go in with the questions and have a rough idea, but ultimately it's kind of you kind of meet the idea in the middle a bit, and then in the edit you sort of discover, you become a bit like an archaeologist in the edit and sort of discover and like things that you never would have thought of are suddenly illuminated, and you're like, oh, actually maybe this is what it's about. So yeah, finding stuff in the edit, which yeah is definitely a way that I've worked a lot. Just film as much as possible which then results in an overwhelming amount of footage, which is horrible. And you're like, oh God, this thing's never going to get done. But at the same time, it's also quite fun because it's like going on an adventure where you sort of going through the wilderness, all this pointless footage. Why have I filmed that? Why have I filmed that? Why have I filmed that? But at the end, you see something that you couldn't have planned for, but suddenly looks quite beautiful because of this journey you've gone on. But yeah, finding something you edit, I think just means just giving yourself enough time to go on an adventure, ponder why you started it. And I think the more you think about why you sort of began filming, you then sort of just kind of by instinct sometimes just latch on to bits that feel, you kind of just feel it when you're editing. But yeah, that's definitely a way that I make stuff, just pray that in the edit I can fix this and make this into something.
No, but I think it really works because you read the comments. I was reading the comments on your films, and it clearly you make stuff that resonates so much with so many people. And I'm just wondering how you do it because you just take experiences and feelings that so many people have and you make it so poetic, you make it funny.
Yeah, thank you. That's really nice. Yeah, people are very nice in the comments about sort of the editing, which is nice because I put a lot of effort into editing and stuff. But yeah, I think that's kind of the nice thing as well with editing. A lot of it is kind of a bit of an accident, and like you kind of just have to let you give yourself away a little bit to the edit and not be like, if a lot of sometimes I've gone into a video with such an idea of what I want it to be, which has actually hindered me because that idea isn't actually in the footage and the footage is actually a completely different film. Yeah, with editing sometimes you just have to give yourself up a little bit and just be like, which is quite nice, that freedom of just being like, because you can sometimes when you're making something, you can be quite strict and be like, no, it's got to be this. I've got this idea in my head, or it's got to be like this inspiration or this. But it can only really be. It already exists. This film sometimes I think in its own weird way somewhere in the universe, and it's not necessarily here in you anymore. You've just got to find it in the edit, again, to use that phrase. So just be up for your vision changing a lot and just see what you get, really, and don't be too precious about it maybe being different to what you actually thought it was the whole time.
That's so interesting, but I think alternatively, you did a monologue film, Boy Ant, that's all one take. So you weren't really editing that as closely. So I wanted to ask you about that. And how did you write that as well? Because that's such a big film.
Yeah, it was a long process, that, but rather interestingly, I feel like that actually went on the biggest journey of editing, in that it had sort of three different versions to get to that final one take, no editing thing.
Yeah.
So like the first version of that started in like 2020 before the pandemic, where it was just going to be a bit more of a normal YouTube video that I was going to do, that was just a bit more like just a catch up vlog sort of thing. Don't think I'd vlogged in a while. So I was just like, I miss this. Let's just turn on the camera and make a bit of a simple, catch up vlog type thing. But then as I was editing that, I was like, oh, I quite like some of these things in here. I've been doing like open mics as well at the time before the pandemic, and some of the bits that I thought had done quite well over mics I'd put into the video. So I had like quite an attachment to some of those bits in that vlog. So I was like, oh, actually, maybe I should develop this into something, I don't know, a bit different or better, whatever that meant at the time. Maybe I just thought maybe I could film this a bit better, because I quite like sort of the stories I'm saying, but it's just, I'm shooting it in my bedroom. Maybe I could do this somewhere else. So I sort of scrapped that. So that was the first version of that Boy Ant film. And then the second version was, I basically was going to shoot it. This is when it sort of began becoming what it eventually was. I was like, let's shoot it on my hometown beach, and sort of maybe still edit it. So at this point, it wasn't a one take. There's still a lot of editing in it with what I was going to be. But I was like, let's shoot it on my hometown beach. And like, I was thinking I was going to make like the beach this sort of limbo space. So it was still going to be a vlog, but it had a bit more, hopefully, like a cinematic vibe. So it was going to be the idea that these 2 years after finishing university, moving back home, I was going to sort of like represent as this sort of like limbo space that was my hometown beach, as I sort of recall those 2 years and sort of things that were happening in my personal life. And then I think it was Bo Burnham. He's someone who started on YouTube ages ago,
Yeah.
and he now does a lot of like stand up, and he's had like a lot of Netflix specials and stuff, and he's great. And as a result of the pandemic, he made a really good feature stand up special on Netflix called Inside, where he basically made a limbo space of his sort of his house that he just, like all of us, was locked in, but he made it this sort of musical. He like made his shed that he stayed in for 2 years this sort of limbo space of his internal hell of dealing with loneliness and all that sort of stuff. And as I watched that, I was like, oh damn, yeah, this has done this a lot better than I was. It was like I was kind of like seeing a similar idea that I was hoping to explore, and also because it just felt a bit, because everyone was already experiencing the isolation of the pandemic at the time. It felt weird me putting effort into describing the isolation of just like the 2 years prior of when I moved back home and finished university. So it felt like, I don't know, it just felt all a bit too much, me putting effort into this really edited thing. And also when I was filming that second version of Boy Ant, where I sort of rented an Airbnb near the beach, and I was hoping to film it all in these 3 days. So windy, so cold. It was like I probably got like 10% of what I needed to film in those 3 days. My camera was blowing over, like it nearly got washed over by the sea at one point. It was like I had a cold within like the first day. So I kind of jokingly just said, let's just do this in one take. I just want this done. Let's just get rid of any editing and let's see if I could do this in one take. Sort of as a joke. But then the more I thought about that and stripping away all the things that maybe I use as a bit of an armor and a way to save me later, like, you know, fix it in the edit, the idea of taking that yeah, what I think is maybe like a strength of mine. I thought if I could take that away and see if I could still do something, what would that look like? And the more I sort of pondered on what started as a joke of just like, I just need to get this done. Let's do it in one take and go home. The more that idea sort of seemed intriguing, and I was like, could I do that? Yeah, and then I was quite proud when I managed to do it. Yeah.
So you just had that idea when you were actually there?
Yeah, genuinely, just as a joke of like, I thought I could film all of this and I can't. And even if I could, it's going to be such a massive edit. I'm so tired and cold. Let's do it. I'd love to just do this as one take. And then I thought,
Yeah.
oh, hang on, could I? And yeah, and then that sort of became the third final version of what that Boy Ant film would be,
Didn't
which is
you
a one
film
take
it like,
monologue.
sorry, didn't you film it like
That's fun.
6 times? That's what I've heard you did.
Yeah, yeah. So that was that second version where I was all annoyed and I can't do this. Let's give up. That was filmed in like December 2022. Oh no, December 2021. And then I spent the next 6 months working on the script, completely basically redoing the script into the one take monologue, which I'd then film in July or August. Yeah, 7 months after that first version. And then by the time I'd written that, finished the script and was ready to film, I gave myself 2 days. Again, another Airbnb, different part of the beach. But this time I was going in knowing that I would definitely come away from the shoot with something and I wouldn't be annoyed and cold and my camera wouldn't maybe be damaged by
Yeah.
water. So that was, yeah, so I gave myself, yeah, I think I did like 6 takes over the 2 days. A few at sunrise, a few at sunset, some in the middle of the day, just to give myself options. And I sort of gave myself the rule that don't stop. Even if you muck up halfway through, because the monologue's about 50 minutes, a
Yeah.
one take thing. And I sort of gave myself the rule, like, don't stop if you feel like you muck up or you've missed a line or whatever. Let's just get through it. So at least I have 6 start to finish takes, and then later I can watch them and maybe do a version of editing, not actually cutting anything, but just seeing which take is the best. And so that was, yeah, a slightly different way of doing it, but yeah,
Did
I
you have
got it
people
done.
coming up to you though and interrupting any takes?
Not no, in Not no, luckily not. But it's the third. I say luckily in a way that could have been quite nice. In the third take, which I didn't use, there was an older couple walking their dog who sort of like said hi, and I sort of just said hi and then carried on with it. And that was actually really nice. I kind of like that little moment of just life passing you by, and then you could see them because the shot is like you could see the beach
Yeah.
all in the distance. It was really nice how you could see them pass the camera and then walk all the way into the sunset. And it's sort of talking a bit about my parents. I thought it was quite nice having these two older figures walking in the distance. But then a load of sand blew into the lens, which kind of made that take a bit unusable. So I was like, damn, I wanted the old couple and the dog, but I can't really use that.
Oh, because it's the worst, isn't it? Filming in the cold, like it's too much. Like the weather
Yeah.
is so hard to shoot in, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially I had a lot. Yeah, there was a lot of elements, especially shooting on the beach with like sand and a bit too windy and the sea. But no, I got lucky though. There was one take that I think was the second one that I was like I had a good feeling of where I thought maybe the energy wasn't quite as good in the one I went with, but there was less. The sun looked nice, the best in that one, and there was less like interruptions or fluffs, muck ups on my part. So I sort of was like, okay, that's the one. Let's go with this. Let's just finish this. I've been doing this for 2 years. Let's just wrap this up and be done with it.
But it worked out so well, and like I'm always
Thanks.
impressed with your comedy element. Like, how did you get into writing comedy and getting so good?
Oh, thank you. That's really nice. Yeah, yeah, I've always liked comedy and
Yeah,
just growing up being a big fan of it. And it's sort of, again, sort of just kind of accidental, really, just being inspired by a lot of YouTubers when I was younger, and just finding people like, Charlie So Cool Like and the Vlog Brothers, like very funny, and just wanting to be like them, really, and just sort of, again, not really knowing I was developing like my writing skills or whatever. Yeah, there came a time where I was like, oh, I'd really like this, and like I want to just watch more comedy and learn more about it. And then as I moved to London, I wanted to like do open mics and stuff, which is something I'd always wanted to do. But I thought, now I was in London, let's take this opportunity and do a few more open mics. And that's how I sort of tested a few things from Buoyant, by doing open mics, which was kind of interesting, because usually when you make a YouTube video, it's quite isolated. You film it, upload it, and then you just see the comments and you sort of guess that, okay, I guess people maybe find it funny because they put like lol or something. But for Buoyant, I wanted to, because it was such a long, one take thing, I wanted to know that some bits definitely worked and got the reactions I wanted. So that was quite interesting, to doing open mics and like taking little segments of this 50-minute monologue and taking them into the world and then getting ready to film them
So
after.
what's next for you career-wise? Like, is comedy something you're going to go more into? Where are you going?
Oh, I don't know. Big questions for Thursday morning again. Where am I? I don't know. I mean, I've weirdly did have, I would really like to do more like open mics, and in the back of my head, the idea of doing that like more, and like I wouldn't complain if that became a thing, because I do really like it. But you have to really like grind at doing open mics if you want to make that into a career. And I don't know whether it's right or wrong. On my birthday last year, I went away, just like I like to go away for my birthday, just by myself and have a little trip. And I filmed a little short film just on the coast of Italy, just like as a little fun exercise. And I've really enjoyed that process, that I thought for the next year, I just need to like commit to just doing one thing, which is film. Like, because I feel like sometimes I get too, I don't know if you have this. I know you said you're like an actor as well, but like there's too many things sometimes that you want to do, which is great. And again, maybe I'll just later feel like wasn't a good decision. But I feel like for this year, I just wanted to focus just on doing film, rather than like, because last year it was sort of like, okay, tonight I'll do an open mic, and then maybe tomorrow I'll do a script. I'm a bit tired from the open mic, so maybe I'll do some music today. And it was a bit like panic overload of like, oh, what do I want to do? Like, and I thought maybe I should just focus on one thing, try and get good at that, and then
Yeah.
see if it works, like at least for a year. And then maybe next year I'll be like, okay, maybe let's just do open mics for a year and see how that goes.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe that's the wrong way of thinking, but that's
I
just
think
where I
there
was
are
at in a minute.
benefits to doing that, but also the fact that you've done a lot means that you've got these skills in music. You make these poems, but is it like conversational poetry, you call it? Like, you've developed all these different skills that will go into your film or anything that you want to do. So I feel like it's not really like you've not made any progress by splitting yourself across different things.
Yeah, hopefully. But yeah, I think sometimes you just have to, make a decision at some point of which is the main thing.
Yeah.
Again, maybe that's not the right way of thinking, but it's just sort of where I was at for this year, and who knows.
Do you have any advice, finally, anything you want to promote?
Not really, nothing to promote really. Just go outside and have some water is the main thing I'll promote. And advice, just if I don't know, I need to give myself advice. If just keep going. That's quite inspirational, isn't it, actually? Keep going. Really,
I think that's
that's
good.
quite
And
nice. That's quite good. You're quite inspired.
I think that is good though, because you look at your career and what you've done and you think Miles has it all together and Miles is doing really well. So it's nice to know that you're
No,
a
Mars
bit
does.
confused.
Mars doesn't. No, Mars doesn't.
Well, you've done a lot of
It's
things.
great. It looks like that.
You can feel like you emotionally, you might feel like that, but results wise,
Yeah.
it's completely different.
I guess advice wise is just probably just like what I tried to tell myself, of just like, just focus on what you can do, and like make the stuff, and I guess actually the you saying it looks like that, I guess is what, like, that I'm, had a good career and stuff is even though feeling sometimes, I think we all feel like, how you're perceived isn't exactly maybe how you feel you're living, but just that perception, I guess, is quite nice because all that stuff that I've made is stuff that I've just made by myself and just was like, I want to make films. Let's not wait for anyone to, like, give me the green light or give me budget to make these things. I just have to make them myself, and that's what I've always sort of done that. Just like, yeah, ever since just starting doing YouTube vlogs to a short that I'm making next week is just like self-funded, not letting rejections of like applying for funding for films and stuff get you down, and just be like, all right, if that film's been rejected to get money, let's just maybe work an extra couple of days this month so I can put aside some money to self-fund a thing, and ultimately just know that you're making stuff because you want to make it, and like to have fun with your friends or to explore something inside, and yeah, and sort of I've always sort of done that. So I guess, yeah, I should, whatever's going on inside ourselves. I feel like I'm doing a TED talk now, but um yeah, just keep going. I'll go back to that original advice. Keep going.
Well, thank you so much for your advice, and thank you for accepting my invitation to come speak.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it was nice chatting. Nice chatting.
So everything that Myles mentioned will be linked to in the description, and I'll also link to his channel, to his Instagram, to his website, and I would genuinely really recommend going to see his films, to go look at his work, because let's be honest, what does he do? Poetry, comedy, writing, acting, directing, filmmaking. Like, it's genuinely so easy to be bad at those things. Like, I probably shouldn't say that, but like, it's so easy to do those things to a bad level, but like, he actually does so many things to a really high standard, and it's just really impressive. Like, I know he was saying that he wants to focus on just filmmaking, but the fact that he's got skills in so many different areas is so just impressive. So I would really recommend going to look at his work, because it has resonated with a lot of people who watch his videos, so I'd recommend checking that out. And thank you so much to everyone for watching. Bye!